Hello, folks. I didn't hear the chime. I noticed the last few times on Google Hangouts, I didn't hear the chime. So you just figure it's live. Hopefully you're in the right disposition for it to be live. I'm still trying to get myself together. Like, I'm really shook up. I usually don't leave stuff like my tripod out because I like my area to look nice when I'm doing videos. So, but Maria, you know what happened just now.
I do.
We're discussing the shade. We're discussing the paler shade of ales, and this is the Van Steenbergen variety pack, which I think you'll agree was a great value for $17.99.
Yes, outstanding. In fact, if I see that, I will buy it.
And I bought one of the beers in there was the Pirat, and I noticed that I had a written review of this beer, the triple hop Pirat. I had a written review of it on Rate Beer, but I did not have a written review on Beer Advocate or the Beer in Me. And I believe what happened was 3 years ago when I did it, it was such a new product that they didn't even have pages set up on other areas. Well, what happened was this wind, a cold front came through, and you see I'm wearing this. It's going to be about 68 degrees today, 69, and low humidity. I barely cracked the beer. Barely cracked, right? I just went, a perfectly normal thing to do, right? And this beer exploded out of the bottle. It was a cascade. I have never seen. It was like the fiercest waterfall you've ever wanted to see. Exploding out of the bottle onto the desk. And I'm just like doing the video like, well, what do I do? What do I do? It's because we were supposed to go on 30 minutes ago. I ran to the kitchen. I looked at the dish towel. I said, this isn't going to work. I run to the bathroom. I get a bigger towel, and I'm like drenching it with water and wringing it out and trying to clean it all up. It's all onto the carpet. Yeah, it's a living beer. It's live yeast. And it proved that it was alive, but in a monstrous way. I lost about 2 ounces of that 11.2 ounces. So greetings from Louisiana. And we have Maria Devon, the girl next door. Greetings, Maria, and I'm sorry for being worked up, but it was so upsetting to me.
Well, hi from New York, and greetings and all of that. And we have a cold front coming in here too. I've had gushers before. It happens. At least you have most of the beer left. The last one that I had maybe a couple of swallows left after my Duvel all came out of the bottle when I opened it. And I think that, you know, it's something that, you know, you're not ever expecting. You can't ever really be prepared for, but it does happen.
Yeah. And I think when you're dealing with live yeast, a bottle conditioned product, that's a risk, right?
Yeah.
You mind if I know it's 12:30 your time PM. It's 11:30 PM my time. You mind if I eat a little bit of this corned beef hash with some onions in it?
Of course not. You go right ahead. I had lunch around noonish when we were supposed to go on. I had a little snack. I had some hummus and some chips to go with my Goose Island Green Line Pale. So you had, as we delve deeper into beer, I'm really excited about our discussions and how, you know, as we gain more experience, we can do more with different comparisons. So usually we compare the same beer and just compare tasting notes or the same style. But today, for the first time, we're going to compare two totally different styles. You've got a Belgian Pale Ale, and I've got an American Pale Ale.
Yeah. And this one here is extremely high ABV Pale Ale. It skirts IPA territory, really. It dances around barley wine territory.
Oh, really? What is the ABV?
10.5%.
Oh, that's nothing like the beer I'm about to have. Not even close.
But it is on the pale side. You can see that.
Right.
It's more of an amber ale, but it's still in the pale world. I mean, let's be honest. Torpedo from Sierra Nevada is darker than this, and that's an extra IPA. So yeah, it fits in with that.
I'm trying to think if I should taste my blonde. I have a blonde in the refrigerator, and I'm trying to think if I should taste that instead. Because when you said Belgian Pale Ale, I wasn't expecting you to have such a high ABV.
No, go with green line because I've had that. Oh, this wind! I gotta shut this window.
Have you? Because if the blonde would be a better comparison, because this one is not really gonna be.
No, I've had that green line, and I was very pleased with it.
Yeah.
I think it's a 5.3. It says on the bottle 5 point.
Yeah, it's about half the ABV of yours, 5.4% ABV. And I'll tell you quite honestly, I am not your biggest fan of the pale ale style. It's not my favorite.
No.
Nor the IPA. As a matter of fact, if I had to choose between the pale ale, the IPA, and the DIPA, I like the DIPA the best.
Yeah.
And this one I bought out of my single section at my local Wegmans. So I'm doing a sixer from them, and I'm talking about the dates and stuff. So, and the first beer I tried for my sixer from the mixed six section, it was out of date. This one is not. This one was bottled February of this year. And okay.
The bottle should tell you the IBU. I think the IBU.
It does. 30 IBUs.
Okay. I thought it was something like that.
Yeah. What's yours? Do you know what that one is?
They don't say, but I was guessing it must be around 50 to 70, probably 65, because with such a high ABV,
Yeah.
a strong malt sweetness, you know how these Belgian beers are.
Yeah.
I think they've got to jack up the IBUs just to make it to where it wouldn't gag you.
Yeah.
So, but it's a hefty beer. I thought on the Cyclops scale, it's probably 4 out of 5 sugar cubes, and at least at a minimum 2.5 out of 5 hop cones. But I'm guessing. I'll say one more thing about this beer. It's got, or a couple of more things. It's got pretty heavy lacing. You can see that. It has fierce bubble streams, to say the least. Oh, hell. I erased. Oh, that's all right. I wrote notes. I was going to look at their website.
Oh, you're so cute when you're flustered. You're like trying to remember everything that happened and get yourself back in order. Calm, take a sip. Cheers, let chin chin, and then we'll do it.
Yeah. Clink.
Yep.
They use 4 hops 3 different times. Now they use Saz hops, Tetra, and Aurora hops twice, and they use Cascade as the dry hop. So 4 hops 3 times. That's why they call it triple hop. You know, Miller Lite is triple hopped, but that's such a different animal. But I scored this beer, and they change the label every year. I noticed they changed the label. I scored it an outstanding back in 2013, which is an A+, and in 2016, here we are. I did it again. I said A+, although, like you, I wasn't thrilled with losing beer onto the carpet.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't stand a mess. It's my peeve. And some beers, I don't know, you'll just notice, like I tend to put a stopper in a beer and stick it back in the refrigerator. And I've noticed certain styles of beers just will not even keep the cap on. They pop it right off, and you go back a few hours later to get your beer out, and you're like, where's the cap I put on? Well, it popped off because it's bottle conditioned and it's still going, and that's what happens.
I'm warning some people right now. I've got Jordan from Canada and Eric from Massachusetts Beer Reviews, and they want to do Pierrot later on. And Jordan said, I can only bring the triple hop. And I'm writing this right now on Facebook. Warning, exclamation mark. The 3 hop exploded with just the slightest crack of the cap. I'm going to write Crown.
Did you shake it up any before you opened it?
No.
Well, I could do it too, you know, like a soda can. If you get a soda can that's been shaken.
You know how gentle I am. I treat beer with the most gentle attention and affection. And so I was so hurt by it responding. It's like I'm trying to pet this little dog and it bites through my finger.
That is funny. I don't know. I have to say that out of beer with quality issues, I've had 1 or 2 gushers. I've had way more beers with what I'm going to call off flavors, and I've had tons of beer that was stale or out of date. So as far as those issues, I'd say my pie chart would be, you know, just teeny little bit gusher, and the rest of the stuff takes up the entire chart.
Well, I can guarantee it was not stale. It was not, it did not present any off flavors or aromas. The only problem was the incident. And I'll show you one thing though. Maybe you can explain this, and then we'll get into that beer you're looking at. It has a sticker on the box. You can tell the sticker was placed onto the box, and it says 14 AO. I noticed on the bottle they don't have the date, guys, but they have this code 14.
That's the date. The 14AO is the code.
So it was made in 2014, eh?
Oh, I'm not real sure, but usually one of the letters signifies the month, one the day. O is which letter of the alphabet? Do you know the number?
Well, J is number 10, K, L, M, N.
M is 14. So 16.
They don't have 15 months, so it's the 16th day
Right, 16, that's how you figure those out. 16 day,
of January.
1, and then your year.
Okay, so January 16, 2014. But at 10.5%, 2 years is not going to matter.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
But I mean, if it's dry hopped, it will matter, right? If the feature of that beer, if it's triple hopped, dry hopped for that effect in the flavor, yeah, then 2 years later it matters.
Okay, so I did not pick up a strong hop presence.
And that would be why.
The beer did smell a little bit like the Rush concert I went to in 1984 in New Orleans, and I think people know where I'm going with that. As soon as I smelled it, it made me think of that Rush concert, and I remember standing in line, I think, to buy a soft drink, Coke, because back in 1984, I just drank soft drinks. And I remember we were standing in line, you know, la-di-da, and this guy was standing by us, just as nice as can be, and he just immediately started to drop to the ground, and his friends had to hold him up and take him away. And I thought, whatever's going on there, I don't want to be part of it. I'd rather watch the concert. But I just remember that very pungent aroma.
Oh, isn't that funny? I thought you were talking about something else. When you said that the fellow had become ill, I thought you were talking about something else. I was at a Grateful Dead concert one Easter Sunday. I was at my first Grateful Dead concert one Easter Sunday when a bunch of people in like lab coats were walking around, and I thought, why are these people in lab coats walking around? And those were the people that go around to make sure that the people who are tripping on acid don't fall onto the floor or choke on their own vomit or anything like that. And I thought, boy, that's just gross. You know, isn't that a terrible thing to have wandering around a music concert?
Definitely not my scene. And what year was that, by the way?
Oh, gosh, let's see. I was newly married, I would say somewhere around 1990, 1991.
Okay. That was during the last stages of the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, I had never heard of anything like that. I felt like I don't know what the word would be. You know how when you feel real small, like, boy, I'm just a hick compared to all of you who are, you know, prepared for this in this way.
And before you start talking about the Green Line, I know in 1969 they had a very bad incident of lots of violence breaking out at a free concert at Altamont Speedway in California. And in fact, one person was even killed. From what I've read, they said one of the problem they suspected was that they were passing out a variant of lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD. It was called Orange Sunshine. And they said basically everybody that was dropping it was having a bad trip. And it was like causing all this violence. I don't know about that. I think it probably was a lot of methamphetamine use, because from what I understand, the hippie scene turned dark real quick with the introduction of amphetamines, speed. And you know, those speed freaks, they're real violent. But anyway, Green Line. Okay,
Green Line. Well, it says here that this is a toasted malt body and a juicy citrus aroma. Frankly, I don't smell anything. I'm not getting a whole lot of nose, neither toasty malt nor citrusy aroma.
Have you had it before?
No.
Oh.
And it's perfectly fresh, and it's well within the 180 days of bottling. I have a little toasty aroma. I have a little what I'm going to call stemmy herbal. But I have to focus on it to perceive it as toasty. I would say it's just a light malt scent. Now, in the American Pale Ale style, citrus aromas and flavors are optional.
Yeah.
And I don't think this has any citrus aroma, so that doesn't make it bad. The only time you would say that is a fault is if they put it on the bottle, right? If they say citrus aroma and there isn't any, well, then that's a fault or a flaw.
Okay.
If I had to say that this was going to have any citrus on it, I would say it would have lemony citrus on it. But meh. And oh, the color is lovely, yellow, perfectly clear, nice and bright, and an active stream of effervescence. A foamy white head that just dissipated, right? Like bubbles do. They just all popped and fizzed out.
You still there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm looking up something. I want to compare something, and I'm not going to tell you what, but go ahead, keep going.
Oh, okay. You want me to do my taste? Okay.
I'm not rushing you, no problem.
It's got a hefty bitterness. The taste is mostly bitterness as far as that goes. And the malt is substantial as far as the texture and the mouthfeel, but it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. There was some herbal to these hops, but that's not coming through. The bitterness is coming through. And it finishes with that slickness that you get when you have the hop bitterness that takes the finish over the malt. And that's one of the tasting qualities that I think is hard for people to get their hands on, because when you're looking for slickness on the palate, that could be diacetyl, that buttery flavor. And it also could be hop oils from dry hopping and whatever else it could be. But it is in this beer. It's mostly slick on the finish. And then all that lingers is just a clear bitterness. And it doesn't have all that much flavor. I'm not thrilled. I mean, meh.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well,
No alcohol on the palate. There's maybe a ting from some kind of. You can get a little of the ABV because there's not that much flavor as it finishes. So also a flaw. And that's it for this beer.
Let me read what they say about the beer on their own website. Oh, what is this? This is not what I'm looking for. Hold on a second. Never mind this. Hold on a second. Green Line. As soon as I saw this Goose IPA, I said, this is wrong. Okay. Apparently Green Line has been out a long time, but they just started bottling it and selling it around the country. Okay, they say honey colored, immensely sessionable APA with a pronounced, now listen, I know you are going to listen. I don't know why I'm telling you that. A pronounced, bright American hop aroma and citrus flavor. Notes of biscuit and lightly toasted malt create the backbone for Green Line's pleasant, crisp bitterness. I didn't write it.
I'm sorry, but I'm not tasting anything except for this light, very light herbal and not any citrus really in the flavor, just a nice, it's a strong bitterness. For 30 IBUs, I'd say it's one of the stronger bitters. And as far as the malt body goes, biscuity, toasty flavor, man, I know that stuff, and I'm not tasting too much of it in here. One more sip. Nah.
Okay, let me read you. Now,
I feel like such a dud. I'm sorry, but I just don't. I don't care for it.
Wait a minute. 2.5 weeks ago, I reviewed that beer. Here's what I wrote on March 17th. Green Line Pale Ale has a very thick, creamy, spongy white head. Mostly clear orange gold appearance with some particles are noticed. I put that in parentheses. Lots of bubbles and a fairly heavy lacing left on the glass. The aroma is a pungent, slightly citrusy, slightly weedy malts. And the flavor is a bready malts, citrus, and a growing, yet never strong, bitterness. Mouth feels medium, and Goose Green Line finishes mostly dry and easygoing. I find this to be quite similar to Foster's Ale, but you know what I scored it? 3.1 out of 5.
Ooh, now why the low score then?
It had all those things I described, but what I described, it just was kind of like dull. And
Yeah.
And Rate Beer is giving it 3.21 out of 5, so they're not much higher than me. I mean, it was okay. And then I said it's quite similar to Foster's Ale. Well, let me tell you, I drank a Foster's Ale 2 nights ago. I think Foster's Premium Ale has more character than Green Line. I have to call it like I see it, but anyway.
I don't blame you. Now, I don't remember the Foster's because we had it so long ago, but.
No, we drank the Foster's Lager, you and I.
That's right. That's right.
I don't even know if
we didn't have the ale. We had the lager.
I don't know if you've ever had the ale in the green can.
I don't think so. But I have to admit, Jay, when you said weedy, yeah, that's about the quality of the herbal. You know, it's not herbal like pills, right? Soft leaves with sweetness, you know, or anything like that. And there's really, aside from that, you know, the fact that I noticed it could have been lemon. That's it. And yeah, like you said, with aroma, not much flavor. And even though the finish is all bitterness, right, and no flavor really, it's not a terrible finish. And that's kind of hard to explain, right? The flavor was weak, the aromas were weak, but the finish was okay.
No, it's not a terrible beer. And I want to be fair to Goose Island Green Line. Okay, their IPA I think is fantastic. I love Goose IPA. But here's the problem we're running into. Here's the problem, America and the world. It's not, I don't think it's symptomatic of a fault with Goose Island in particular. I think it's a problem with pale ales in general. You were saying this early on. You look at all these pale ales, Dale's Pale Ale, Goose Green Line Pale Ale, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. What are some other ones? What are some other big ones?
Victory, Headwaters. I'm trying to think of who else has pale ale.
There's a lot of big ones, and I've had most of them. They all have that problem. They're all like, I'm not going to use this description, so forget that.
Now I'm curious. Now you have to.
I'll phrase it a different way. They're all like, you wanted to drive this car, and the person let you look at the car, and you got in the car, and you were looking at the steering wheel and feeling the steering wheel and the gear shift, and you were like starting the engine up, and you were revving it up, and you're like, let's go drive. And the person's like, you ain't driving this car. I was just letting you look at it. And you're like, what the hell? So it's like it's building you up. It's building you up. But then there's no resolution to the build up with these pale ales. It just takes you there, and then it's like, okay, well, that's all I've got to offer. Sorry. But the IPA,
I know what you mean.
IPAs will let you drive the car. And that's why 10 days out of 10 days, I will drink an IPA over a pale ale.
So you're saying that small measure of alcohol adds complexity, adds estery qualities, adds body and mouthfeel, and simply takes basically the same type of beer, just that little bit further for your enjoyment as far as the two styles.
Oh, definitely. And it's not just the alcohol, which is a big part of it now, but it's the IBUs. It's
but the alcohol can make it seem sweeter and softer and friendlier, and can also augment the fruity and the citrusy flavors of the hops. So, you know, a stronger beer might have, has stronger flavors.
I understand all that. But it's like, why just get in the car? Why don't you drive it? And the pale ales they always, like there's something missing, you know? It's like that movie Bananas with Woody Allen when, what was that actress's name? I don't think it was Louise Lasser. But she says, I knew something was missing. And that's the way these are. So anytime I see a pale ale on the shelf, I might review it, but I'm thinking, all right, let me review it. But if it's an IPA, I say, ooh, let me review it. See the difference?
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Because I do too. I see a pale ale and I keep looking for something else. I see an IPA and I might, reserve it in my, in my mental shopping cart, but it depends on what else is there.
Now,
And,
of course,
and I don't want to have too many IPAs. Like during my week, I
no.
want to have as many different things during my week as I can have. And if I'm locked into buying sixers rather than singles, then I don't want 2 IPAs, right? I don't want to buy 2 sixers, each one an IPA. I want to buy something different.
Yeah, now this what I'm drinking here, this is $3 a bottle, which is really not bad considering what you're getting.
Not at all, and that's darn cheap. That beer in my bottle shop is not $3 a bottle.
Yeah, you got to get that variety pack. But
Yeah.
this beer, it has got the alcohol, excuse me, the alcohol punch to really give it heft, character, notoriety. It makes it interesting. It makes you want to drink more. Is it super bitter? No, but it's got the body. It's got the ABV. It's got the boldness of flavor and aroma to make you want to drink it. And that's why I was so depressed when I spilled the 2 ounces. Now, if I'd have spilled 2 ounces of Green Line or Dale's Pale Ale or Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, I'd have said, oh, well, all I did was spill 2 ounces of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And I'm not talking bad about those beers because I think Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is a modern classic. But it's not a modern classic that I care to drink, frankly.
It really is, and people do really, really love it. And I agree. If I had that beer that you had and it had gushed, well, one, for me, it would be a problem to get another one, so I would have been very disappointed. And not so much if a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale had gushed, because I can get tons of those. But by the time I find that beer that you have, either in a single or in a case, like what you have, it's few and far between.
Yeah. Now, we might be doing Pierrot tonight. And then the guy, like I said, the guy from Canada said, well, I can only get the triple hop. I said, watch it. You better be near a sink. I mean, so now I got 4 of these bottles left. I'm kind of like really wary, right, to sit in front of this computer and crack it.
Well, just open it elsewhere or put it like a bucket. That's what I would do. Like if I became so leery of a certain specific, 6-pack or 4-pack, I would just put a cleaning bucket or something and do it over that just in case.
Yeah. So you're right. And now I had that.
I get lots of flack for not pouring my beer on camera, but I thought I was doing viewers a favor, right? Because I would pour these lager beers, and the head would take forever to fall, and what am I going to talk about while that happens? So I would pour the beer, wait for the head to fall, and then I would come on, and I got flack for that. People were saying, why don't you pour the beer? You're supposed to pour the beer. I'm like, you've never poured beer?
Right.
Here's my bottle, here's my beer. I waited so that I wouldn't be, trying to talk about something.
Right. And secondly, you're watching the video, right? So presumably you're going to go try the beer out. That's what most of the viewers that watch my videos say. Well, I went and tried it myself. And then what they'll do is they'll drink it and check what they're thinking about it against what I said. It's probably better to watch my video after they've drank it, right? Because you don't want to be influenced. But whatever.
No, but you can't avoid all influence. That's the other thing, right? Like when you're at the bottle shop and you get out your phone. I don't have one, so I don't do this. One of those fancy phones, and you start checking the scores and the reviews for the beer you're going to buy. You've already influenced yourself. You've already seen it, whether you like to think so or not. And you've already heard everything that everyone's going to say about it, right? If you've heard anyone talk about it, so how are you going to avoid all influence? 2 very strident schools of thought about never looking at reviews or go ahead and look at reviews. So some people say don't do it until after you write yours, and other people are like, well, it doesn't make any difference. And I'm one of the people that says it doesn't make that much difference.
I don't think it makes any kind of great difference. I do try to watch. I generally read the written reviews after I do mine, just for the fact that I always follow a pattern that's convenient for me. It's not.
I do too, and I really enjoy, like, when I hit top raters, on BA after I write my review and I start seeing familiar faces and I start reading the reviews. That's the part I like. I enjoy that. I also like reading the entire first page of the most recent reviews, just because those are the most recent reviews.
Right. I never go past a month.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what people said in 2009. I mean, these things change, and you can't. These yeast strains, I think they evolve and stuff like that. So,
and not only that, I think that each time you make something, it's never exactly the same. It couldn't possibly be. Even if you used exactly the same ingredients, right? The exact same recipe. Well, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, there's all kinds of things that can make something come out a little bit different.
yeah, too many variables.
And so I'm with you. I think that, as brewers take feedback from customers, as they look at their own beer and say, well, this is what was wrong with this beer, and make improvements, which they should if they, would like to. Those are the things that change the beer.
Right. And there's other variables too, which wouldn't really, matter about the time of recording. What I mean is things like how hot was it in the room, how hot was it outside, how cold was it? Well, that wouldn't really matter. I have nothing to do with time. But it is a factor. I mean, you can't. But of course, you cannot factor that out. But I think you're right. Going back to what somebody said 7 years ago, I'm a little leery about that. Besides the fact that I really don't want to read more than a month of beer reviews, because then I got other things to do.
Yeah, well, that's true too. I really look forward to certain people's reviews, just because of the way they write, their style, the way they break in and out of the formula. And some people are just so creative with their reviews that it's hard not to look forward to, like, oh, gee, I wonder what this person said about this beer. And then I really look forward to the people who review as hard as they possibly can, right? The ones who are persnickety, who give the very low scores,
Yeah.
who consistently are critics. I always read them too.
Especially when they give a good reason for it.
Oh, yeah.
And
I won't read a critical statement that doesn't back it up with some kind of example.
Right. And I'm admittedly, I'm overly generous with reviews. You know that. I've always been accused that you rate beer too high. And I say, I understand that. I admit that I rate beer too high, so-called, but I don't know what to do. If I'm drinking, let's say in the next 2 years, I drink 1,000 new beers. Well, hell, excuse my language. It is 10.5% alcohol. If I drink these beers and they all are coming up B+, A-, A+, what am I going to do? Start telling lies so it'll balance out? No. If they're high, they're high. I mean, to me, that's a benefit if you're drinking all these beers and they taste great.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think the majority of my beers fall into the category of beers that didn't taste good. Some do, but some really don't. And does that influence your overall score or not? I don't know, but maybe it shouldn't. I mean, maybe if you could totally be objective and separate that, enjoyment from not enjoying it. I think you just enjoy beer. I don't see why that's a bad thing. Like just now, right, I'm starting to get a little bit of that biscuity now that this has warmed up a little, but still, and so the other challenge to writing a review is to do it so that you're not making fun of someone's work, right? Because someone made this. And I think that's why, brewers kind of get their backs up a little. They're like, well, that's my work. I made that.
I understand.
And you would too, right? Like if you came to my house and started just critiquing my cooking.
Yeah.
But I didn't put my cooking on a shelf for some money.
Yeah, but of course, I'd be saying, oh, it's most excellent. Now, because that's
and my cooking is most excellent.
That's what people accuse me of. Everything's most excellent. But that's an A.
That's just a good attitude. I don't think you can be blamed for good attitude.
But there's only so much you can do with a pale ale. It is what it is. I prefer the British pale ales they seem to have a little more going for them. Like, for instance, Bass. Well, now we're running into some conflict. Boddingtons. Those maybe are more amber ales, possibly. Samuel Smith's. There's just something about these English pale ales. They have more to them.
Saranac's Pale is an English style pale ale, and that's why I didn't mention it when I was trying to think of other examples of the American pale. This is relatively a new style, and I'm trying to think. I think Victory Headwaters is an American pale ale. Saranac is an English. I'm trying to think if Brooklyn has one and what it would be.
Now,
Ithaca doesn't have one anymore, but
now they have the like I told you earlier, the Foster's Premium Ale, which apparently, and I don't really believe this necessarily, but then that style has so many sub-styles you can't hardly figure it out. Some people say that the Foster's Premium Ale, which comes from like the 1920s in Australia, is an ESB. Well, it's hard to say, but that beer does have more character in the end than what you're drinking today. And when you can get it on sale for two 25.4 ounce cans for $3 or $3.25 total, that's a good deal. So that's a really interesting beer. And they don't use caramel color anymore. They abandoned that. They went to natural coloring from the malts, which is
good for them. I love it when I hear that. When I hear that a brewer was using what you might call cheaper ingredients or cheaters ingredients like caramel coloring. I love to hear that they switched over because, you know, they had to do it for a reason. If consumers had liked the cheaper caramel color, then they wouldn't have switched to the better malts.
No, and the can used to say very clearly, caramel color added.
Yeah.
I always thought, oh, I bet this beer looks like straw without the caramel color. So it always bothered me. But when the last couple of months, they came out with the cans that say there's no disclaimer on the can, which means they're not using a caramel color. I'm telling you right now, that beer tastes differently. It's got a richer, more roasted flavor, and there's a hoppier flavor. I don't know what they did with it. They tweaked it. They did something, but I think it's really good. Another ale that I would recommend to people that has a little more, it's got a little more something to it, and I don't know what it is the Ballantine Ale, which you can find all over New York City, especially in the Bronx. I've never seen it in Louisiana. I've seen the Ballantine IPA, which is another jewel, but we're talking about paler ales now, not necessarily India pale ales. So those are two right there, and they're inexpensive. Ballantine, and I don't know if you've ever had their Ballantine Ale.
No.
The Fosters, and I can't think of anything else, but those are two right off the top of my head. Oh, yeah. Now this is going to cause problems, and then we're going to shut it down. Here I go. I'm going to say it anyway. Lord Chesterfield Ale from Yuengling.
Yeah. Lord Chesterfield was recommended to me from someone who I just love and admire. And when I got it, my first whiff of that beer was like, this smells like green beans from the can. There's just way too much DMS in this for me to even pour it. And then I poured it, and it still smelled like that. And I was just so turned off. I should go back and try it again.
I'm sorry, because I can only go by the 6-pack that I had, you see.
Honestly, I only bought the one, and I didn't know the date of it, and I should try it again.
Yeah, and there's another one from Genesee. What's it called? The Horse Ale, something Horse Ale.
Yeah, 12 Horse, I think it's called, and I've not had that either.
Either me. But I've had the Cream Ale, which is a jewel.
Oh, yeah, I like the cream ale, too.
That's got nothing to do with what we're talking about today, cream ale. Hey, don't you think this was a fun midday hangout?
I do. I hope you don't feel too discombobbled all day.
Oh, I'll probably be upset about that 2 ounces of this beer for years. But
So,
I'll deal with it.
okay, well, who's your pick for the Final Four?
Well, I'd like to see Syracuse win, of course, just because they you know, they don't have that good of a record. They've only won the championship once, and I would like, but I don't see them winning. I don't think they'll win. And the other game, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna watch it. Like,
me too. I love to
I
watch.
can't say who's gonna win. I don't know who's gonna win. North Carolina. I don't know.
I love to watch the basketball. I don't watch it all season, and then it gets down to March Madness and the Final Four, and then I start to watch. And I love when Syracuse is in. Whether they win or not, I'm going to be over here, you know, thinking, let's go Orange all the way, baby, and we'll see how they play.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm always going to college basketball games and New Orleans Pelicans pro basketball games. I go to 2 a year, but anyway, it'll be interesting. And now we got baseball starting tomorrow is opening day for Major League Baseball. So anyway, thank you, folks. And I want to say especially, I really appreciate Maria joining me. She had a brilliant idea this morning.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for spending time with me, too. Cheers, y'all. Cheers to Louisiana.
Yes, and cheers to New York. And everyone have a nice, beautiful Saturday, and be careful driving if you go anywhere.